Welcome to the Business Legends Podcast, where we interview business leaders and entrepreneurs so that you can learn from their successes, pump up your own inspiration, and meet the people that make change happen. I'm the host of the show, Reese Arlen, and my esteemed colleague, my co-host, is absent today. I'm gonna have to get on him about being lazy. He's actually doing something important, so I can't say something too bad. But I'm really bummed out that we didn't get to spend all time together with my good friend Danny Decker. Danny, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Reese. It's good to be here. Yeah, it's a bummer Christian's not here. I was looking forward to talking pickleball with you guys all morning. So.
Yeah. I mean, we've been playing so much lately. It's such a great hobby, and we've been able to meet so many people. So I know you play a couple times a week, and this is not Business Legends related at all. But do you feel like it's been good for networking for you?
Yeah. I mean, it's another great way to meet people. I've definitely met a handful of pretty high caliber business owners and business folks. 100%. It's kind of like golf. In that way.
It's been so stressful. We actually have 2 clients now that we met on the pickleball court.
Get out of here.
And, yeah, I know. And it's just been like, conversations happen. And it's very organic. But I think there's something to be said for that. Like you end up having a good conversation with somebody, and then it just kind of happens organically.
Yeah.
So Danny here, not only is he a great friend of ours, but he is the author of The Automatic Marketing Machine, and he's basically a mastermind for all things marketing. So Danny, tell us a little bit about your book and how you got into the marketing industry.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll start at the beginning, but I'll kind of try to make it quick here too. So got into marketing way back in the day, like 2009, 2010.
Okay.
Started a marketing
Stone
agency.
tablets, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, early days of Facebook. Like, Facebook ads didn't exist.
Yeah, when you had to have like a college email to sign up for
exactly.
Facebook. Yeah,
exactly. So started an agency way back then, built it to a 7-figure agency, clients kind of all over the country. Sold that in 2018 because I really wanted to focus more on sort of the education side of things. I've always felt like there's a big gap for most small business owners around marketing strategy. Like they don't necessarily understand strategy, and that makes them, kind of get bright, shiny object syndrome, right? Chase idea after idea, not necessarily ever get the results that they're looking for. And so wrote a book, started podcasting, doing a lot of speaking.
This was not Automatic Marketing
Correct.
Machine,
This
right?
was a book called Marketing Simplified.
Okay.
And basically the concept was teaching small business owners how to think about marketing so they can be more effective marketing managers, marketing strategists, hire marketing vendors, kind of all of that.
Sure, yeah.
And so did that for 3 or 4 years. I still do very limited amount of coaching and consulting kind of around that book and that concept. But then, early this year, launched a book with a co-author and a good friend of mine called The Automatic Marketing Machine. And really, we're trying to do 2 things with that book. The first is big picture. We're trying to help small business owners kind of catch the vision for how marketing should fuel the growth of their business.
Sure.
And the reason we call it the automatic marketing machine, right, is because so many business owners, I'm sure you've seen this too, Reese, get stuck in this trap where like they are generating business through their own manual labor, right?
Going
to the BNI once a week.
Yeah, going to pickleball.
Going to pickleball.
That's not the intention, but it just happened to work that way.
But bottom line, it's a manual effort, and that's a great way to start a business, right? But the problem is if you're a business owner who ultimately wants to have freedom from your business and have the ability to take a month-long vacation and still have your business grow, you got to get to the point where your business is growing, whether you're out networking or not, right? And so we look at it as a machine. You need to have a marketing machine that's just pumping a steady flow of new leads and new clients into your business. And so that's kind of objective number 1 behind the book, is just helping business owners catch that vision. And then number 2 is really it's a very strategic, practical, like here's what it looks like to run a good lead nurture campaign. Here's what it looks like to generate leads. Here's what it looks like to follow up. So it's the first half is like philosophical, help people catch the vision. And the second half is like, all right, now here's how to go do it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it came out in I want to say April. It's available on Amazon, automaticmarketingmachine.com as well. And so that's kind of been my focus the last 9 months or so.
I thought about you the other day and I forgot to text you, so I'm sorry, but now we can talk, so it doesn't matter. But somebody actually quoted Warren Buffett at me, and I was like, don't quote Warren Buffett at me, But they said one of the Warren Buffett's famous quotes, and of course he has many, but he said, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you're going to work the rest of your life. And so of course immediately I'm thinking, that's the automatic marketing machine.
Yeah, well,
that's
literally,
that's
really funny. Literally, the headline on our website and like the first line in the book is, if you don't have an automatic marketing machine, all you have is a job.
Right.
Right? Because it's the same point. It's like ultimately, again, it's fine if you're in that hustle network, mode when you're starting your business. But if you really want to grow a truly sustainable business that's going to give you freedom, you have to have marketing systems in place.
You have to. And it's been, gosh, I mean, it's amazing that we're in the same industry and so like-minded, and we have so many opportunities to work together, which is amazing. And one of the things that I constantly think about is, well, first off, marketing trends, because it seems like people sometimes want to hop on the new hot thing. Like, we get a lot of inquiries now for TikTok, for instance.
Yeah.
And TikTok's a very strange system. We could talk about that forever. But one of the things that we'll ask is like, what's your availability for input? Because if you want to do TikTok, you have to. You got to do the silly dances, and you got to. That's just the reality.
You can't hire an agency to go do the dances for you.
No, I can't. As good as I could do at the Macarena or whatever, like I couldn't. That's not a system that I could help them with.
Right.
But it's incredible because I feel like we get into that educational type of system where we end up talking to our clients about, okay, what's your end goal here? What type of thing do we need? We spent a good deal of time talking before the show too about systems that are not necessarily marketing, such as input, right? So if somebody gets a call, and for instance, just as an example, your service area is Charlotte, then your person that's taking the call better know that your service area is Charlotte.
Well, and that's really, there's a whole conversation there too. And
Sure.
we were talking about it before the show. It's interesting because business owners really need to think of their business as systems, right? There's marketing, which is I would argue one of the most important. Like, surely if you want to grow your business, you have to have a marketing system in place that generates leads. But then the next part of the business is sales, right? Or intake, or whatever you call it in your industry. And you can have you can have a great marketing machine generating tons of qualified leads, but if your sales intake system is broken, well, you got to fix that. Otherwise, those leads are just dying on the vine. And we could share story after story if we really wanted to get into it.
Most of them horrifying, I'm sure.
Yeah, but and so putting my sort of consulting hat on, that's kind of one of the things I kind of have to work through with my clients. It's not even necessarily my favorite area. Like, I really love marketing and lead gen, and that gets me fired up. But I've quickly realized, once you get leads flowing for somebody, if you don't have an intake system, it's not doing them any good. And so, we end up spending a good amount of time just kind of educating them on that side of things. You have to.
One of the value propositions for us, of course, that we do a ton of websites, right? And I'm very proud of our team because they do a great job. But beyond that, we're to the point in business where, and I think all businesses kind of go through this, right? You start off and you kind of take whatever work that you can possibly get. That's 6 years ago when you're a startup, Nowadays, we're real honest with our clients, and we say, look, I can generate whatever you want. I can, turn the meter up, turn it down. I can get the flow here going. But if you don't improve the site they land on, the intake system, whatever it happens to be, if they call, they get an actual person, whatever else, then everything we do is for naught. So it's very interesting to see what types of things people are thinking about. I'm curious to get your input on this. I feel like when times are tough, and God knows we went through a lot of those in 2020, even into 2021 a little bit. Something you don't know about us, by the way, is that back then 40% of our marketing programs were with fitness centers, and so when 2020 occurs, then so it was like instant drop in business for sure. But one of the things that we found was that it seems like an attitude of marketing is one of two ways, right? Some people treat it as an accessory, like after the fact, like, oh, this is something that's great for me to do. And it's also for them, the people that are first to cut it, and then other people treat it like their lifeline, like it's the most important thing that they do. It's the last thing they want to cut in budget. Have you encountered something like that, or those different types of people?
Yeah, no, sure. And I would say the people that think of marketing as an afterthought are either
horrible
clients. Either right. Either their business is just totally stagnant and they're okay with that, or more likely they have a very sales-driven organization, right? Where where the way they're actually growing their business is they have sales teams
Sure.
that are doing the, the relationship building. And so I think in like, the manufacturing space, for example, I work
Sure.
with some clients there where it's like it's sales rep driven,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so there the role of marketing, it's cool because when marketing is done right, which they don't necessarily realize that this is possible, but marketing can make sales job a lot easier, right?
easier.
Because you can
Yeah.
bring them better qualified leads so that they don't have to go out and cold call basically.
For sure.
But then on the other end of the spectrum, you're totally right. There are the business owners who like really get it that listen, I need to invest in my marketing. It's literally an investment in the future of my business. And obviously those are fun clients to coach and to work with.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes you kind of have to take a step back and get into people's headspace and their mindset. And if you can prove your attribution, this equals that, then there's no defense or argument about it. Do you know Mike Mooney by chance?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So he's big into reputation. He's a great friend of mine. He's
Yeah.
been friends of mine for 10 years or something like that now. But he talks about reputation, and I remember having this conversation over a coffee with him 3 years ago. But he was talking about how the absolute best lead that you could possibly get for a business is when somebody calls you and they say, hey, I don't know what you do, but you did a great job for my buddy whoever, and I want to do that. And you're like, I mean, it's like you were talking about how reputation marketing makes sales easier.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody easier to sell. And I think sell and sales are like negative words, or perceived negatively or something like that. But when I think about it, it's just developing a new relationship and treating them with the same care that you do with all your other clients.
Yeah, and that's an interesting topic because I used to have a negative mindset towards sales, at one point. Like, when I was way back in the day in college, and the idea of sales just seems negative, right?
Sure.
I think sales is really helping people though, right? Like at the end of the day, if you're selling a product or a service that legitimately brings value to your customers, then every time you make a sale, you're making their life better, right? And the interesting thing is that they don't necessarily know that, right? Like your potential prospect might need a little bit of persuasion and perspective in order to see like how much better their life can be with your product or service. But when that's how you approach sales, when it's like, hey, I've got this thing here that's going to make your life better, and I really believe it's going to make your life better, and look at all these other people, it's made their life better.
Right.
I would argue, you're doing them a great service when you sell them something.
Sure.
So that's kind of how I've started to think about sales. But it really is, it's a tough conversation. I work with a lot of attorneys. And a lot of attorneys have not only sales, but even marketing is almost a dirty word in certain professions. And so it's about reframing it and saying, hey, listen, you guys make their lives so much better after somebody works with you, whether it's a family law issue or bankruptcy or injury, whatever.
They need you.
They need you. And so like, how dare you not try to go help them, right?
Yeah.
And so I would argue it's like your obligation not only to market to them, but also to have an effective intake process where you help them recognize we can help you get from point A to point B, and your life's going to be much better as a result. I would suggest that's an obligation, right? Not only is it the right thing to do, but it's an obligation for you as a business owner, whatever industry you're in. So 100%.
Yeah. Past lifetime, I owned some nutrition stores, and so I would go to conferences and stuff like that, and I did quite a bit of sales training because for me, imparting knowledge was always the easy part, and the sales were something that didn't come very naturally. I don't know if there was some discomfort with the transfer of funds, basically, but it's just a mental block you have to get over. But one of the things that it just always sticks out in my mind, and this is from a conference that I attended in 17 or 18, so it's been 5 or 6 years ago. So the word sell comes from a Greek root word, and the root word means to serve. And so I always think about that, and if you keep that in your mind, like, of course you get a benefit out of it. The benefit is money, right? Or whatever you get in return for your service. But if you always think about, this is your job to do, this is your passion, whatever you following through with, I think it transitions the mind, and I think that mindset is everything when it comes to these things.
Exactly. It's an exchange of value, right? Your prospect is giving you money. in exchange for something that they value even more than that money, right?
Absolutely.
And so
Yep.
like it's a profitable thing for both parties.
Yeah, it's a win-win for everybody. So I want to backtrack a little bit, and on Business Legends, we like to talk to up-and-coming entrepreneurs. It could be somebody that's been working a 9 to 5 for the past 20 years, and they really want to branch out. We have our own story. Of course, you have yours. What would the process be like? What would your advice to somebody like that be?
Somebody who is kind of stepping out and
Yeah.
starting their own business.
Yeah, they kind of call it the entrepreneurial bug, I guess. But they're comfortable doing what they do, but they're just compelled to act beyond the realm of reason
Yeah.
and go from a steady income, steady salary, and maybe even supporting their family to kind of taking that plunge.
Yeah.
into the unknown.
It's funny, Reese. I've gone through a shift in how I have those conversations. When I was 5 or 6 years into, building my own business and, having a lot of success, I used to tell everybody like, oh, you should go start your own business. Like it's so great. And, I've almost now started trying to talk people out of starting their own business.
Really? Yeah.
Not that
Like a reverse psychology challenging them type of a way?
Not
or?
exactly. It's more like, listen, is there something in you that needs to be an entrepreneur, that really wants to start a business? And if there is this powerful drive in you that you can't satisfy working a job or doing whatever else, then go for it. But listen, if you are somebody who, is reasonably happy working a 9 to 5 job and enjoys the stability of a paycheck and enjoys the ability to take long vacations and all of that stuff, I don't sugarcoat it anymore. Entrepreneurship it's a roller coaster, man.
It is.
And
it is. Highest highs and lowest lows. It's just the reality of it.
And people like you and I are cut out for it and love it. And like, I won't speak for you, but I couldn't imagine doing anything else, right?
Me neither. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
And Christian always gives me a hard time. He would love to chime in on this, but he says I'm the least employable hard worker that he's ever met because I mean, believe it or not, at one point Christian was actually my manager at another job that we had. We were both personal trainers. He was my manager, and he said I was the most infuriating personal trainer to work with because he couldn't tell me anything, and it's still that way. Like I have my own system of doing things.
So there are people that kind of have to be entrepreneurs,
That's
right?
me. That's me 100%.
And then there are people that might be happy not being an entrepreneur. And so I'll have a tactical conversation with somebody. If somebody's sold in that they want to do this, like we totally have the conversation about what do they want to do. But the first thing I do is I tell them, listen, are you sure you really want to get on this roller coaster?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of pop culture over the last 5-10 years has really glamorized entrepreneurship. Everything from like Shark Tank and Gary Vee and all that stuff.
Sure.
Which is great. Like, I love entrepreneurship, but I think there's like a generation of people that come up seeing the coolness of being an entrepreneur
Sure.
and the upside of it and all of the flashy stuff on Instagram and TikTok and whatnot, and don't necessarily realize what a grind it is.
Yeah.
And so I try to have a real conversation with people and first off say, like, why do you want to do this? Do you really want to do this?
Yeah, one of my favorite stupid quotes about entrepreneurship is a long time ago I decided to work 80 hours a week for myself, so I never had to work 40 hours a week for somebody else, and that's truly how I feel about it.
Yeah, and a lot of people, what you're really doing when you go into business for yourself, number one, you're working 80 hours instead of 40.
Yep.
But number two, you just traded one boss for like 20 bosses, your clients, right?
Yep.
And I don't know, are you guys into the book E-Myth? Have you read that? Talk about that?
I know what it is.
Yeah.
I have not read it. In
So
its entirety.
it's a really good book. But it basically the premise of the book is that most small business owners, when they go start their business, like they do it because they're really good at a technical skill, right?
Sure.
So you're like a landscaper and you're really good at it, and so you decide to start your own business, and they don't realize that the skill of being a landscaper is 100% not related at all to the skill of building a business.
Yep.
And that's true for attorneys, landscapers, mental health. That's true for anybody and everybody. And so that's kind of, that's a really big disconnect. And so that's the first step that, a new business owner needs to take and realize, hey, you could be the best electrician in the world, but if you don't learn how to be a business owner, like it's going to suck. You're going to be working 80 hours a week for, 70 different bosses.
Right. It's interesting you mentioned that, and you mentioned the mental health aspect. So my father is now retired, but he was an orthodontist, and literally you can look this up, but through like from the years 1980 to like 2000. 16 or something, the number one career of people that commit suicide is dentists. And now I think lawyers have taken over since then, which you work with a lot of those as well. But my father and I have spoken about that in length, because you think about a dentist, and typically speaking, like, they live good lives, they have good salaries, they have, they have a little bit of job autonomy, and they can choose their hours and everything else. So you think about, why, right? And my dad and I have thought about it a bunch. And, number one, it's how much detail and pressure that you have on a day-to-day basis. I mean, if you cut through somebody's gum or something, that's a big deal. You could really ruin their teeth. And then number two, though, is he said that, in dental school, they teach you how to be a good dentist. They don't teach you how to be a good business owner.
Yep.
And so, you have to learn all these skills, and everybody kind of develops their own lane for it, I suppose. Some dentists just work at, I want to call it firms, but they work at, dental practices and things like that. But a lot of them end up branching out and doing their own thing, and the pressure is just overwhelming. And so I think that's what happens with it.
Yeah, no, I just 100% agree. It's very easy to get yourself into financial trouble.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of ways that if you don't know what you're doing when you're running a business, you put yourself in just a really bad situation. And I hadn't seen the stat on suicide rates, and that's crazy and sobering. But I have seen a lot of stats on like alcoholism and like alcohol abuse, and attorneys are either number 2 or number 1 in that.
Right.
Dentists are up there. And it's the same thing. It's like, it's these smart, talented people who are great at doing the thing, like great at being a dentist or great at being an attorney, and then just get thrown into a situation where, now they're running their own business, but nobody taught them how to do it.
Right.
And
they
so
get the payroll and they have no idea. They're like, I haven't looked at this stuff since undergrad.
So coming back to your original question, that would be another thing that I would absolutely tell anyone who's thinking about starting a business is that you need to recognize that there's the technical work of being an electrician, landscaper, dentist, attorney, and then there's the work of building a business. And you better become a student of building a business. Otherwise, you're going to be worse off than if you just kept your job working for somebody else.
100%. It's ongoing too. That's one thing that luckily I have a business partner, and we push each other. In more ways than one, but we continually push each other. He's very big on continuing education, and one of the things is he's always looking for the next best way to do things, and it pushes me to kind of grow and learn about some things that I don't know. Now in our industry, of course, I would honestly argue that marketing is the industry that changes the most rapidly, because there's just so many different options for us. But he challenges me to try out a new software recorder, for instance. There's all these different software that do all these different things, and we have to figure out what the right move is for us. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Have you guys started playing with Chat GPT?
Oh yeah, it is. Actually, it's funny you should mention that. I have a good friend, and he's looking at starting a facility. I can't tell you any more than that because I promised him that it's kind of top secret information or whatever. But we did the Chat GPT. By the way, for those of you that don't know what Chat GPT is, it's a thing that's like, tell me a story about Danny's marketing business or something, for instance, and it'll come up with a 1,500 word short story about this just from that input only. You know, and so. My friend is looking at starting a facility again. We'll talk offline about what it is. And it's like, tell me a story about this. And it was a full-on, like, it's frightening. It's frightening how good it is, too, Well, so I would say it's already at the level of, a mid-level copywriter, content writer. Easily.
It can write phenomenal blog entries. Like, it's... So speaking of new software, ChatGPT is wild.
Oh yeah. And you have a background in copywriting too. So does that infuriate you that you?
You know what? Honestly, no, because so I was a pretty serious student of copywriting and the direct response copywriting, and there's a world of difference between that type of copywriting and what I would just kind of call content creation. Right? Content creation is basically taking facts, taking information, and presenting it in a, grammatically correct, logically flowing way. That's really an entirely different discipline than writing copy that motivates people to take action and buy. Right? There's a persuasion element. There's a neuro-linguistic programming element. Right? There's a lot of subconscious. And maybe someday artificial intelligence will get there, like probably will. But
I almost wonder if I've thought about this a lot because we had the Chat GPT conversation very recently. I almost wonder if there's going to be some sort of shift. I mean, there's always going to be a shift in the marketplace, right? But the shift that I'm thinking about is like, people are going from seeking information towards like having a conversation. And of course, voice SEO. So when people ask their phone, what's the best bowling alley near me or whatever, the places that tend to do the best on SEO are the places that have answers to those questions specifically. And so I wonder if we're gonna see this shift where our old practices of SEO, blog writing, and information are gonna get completely swept under the rug in lieu of what you're saying, having great content in place that answers questions and is more conversational and like there's a difference between written English and spoken English, just the same thing. You know?
Exactly.
So it's exciting, man. We're in such an exciting environment and career, and I don't know. It's been a, like you said, a great roller coaster for me, and I know it has been for you as well.
100%.
Yeah. Well, Danny, I think that concludes our time today. I got a flight to catch, so I got to get going. Tell the people how to get a hold of you in case they're looking for marketing consulting. I know you're kind of at capacity with that, but
yeah. So you can go to
tell them about the book too.
Yeah, DannyDeckerMarketing.com and kind of learn about sort of the speaking consulting stuff that I do. Like I said, at this moment, I'm not really taking on clients in that capacity, but always happy to have a conversation. You can kind of contact me through that website. But also, the book is at automaticmarketingmachine.com. And we have a ton of really great free resources that you can get on that website without even buying the book. Literally, we packed that book with probably like 25 or 30 like downloadable resources. That's everything awesome. From, KPI spreadsheets so that you can track your marketing spend to, an exercise to identify your target clients, how to write good email follow-up campaigns, just all sorts of really useful marketing resources. And again, it's all available totally free. You don't even have to buy the book. It's automaticmarketingmachine.com.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I think, I'll be the first to tell you, and I'll leave you off with this. When I first got into the business, and keep in mind I'm hyper competitive, this from the courts and everything else, but I'm hyper competitive. And so, 6 years ago, I may have looked to somebody like you as like a threat or something, like a competition, or, I would be remiss to share things like that with my clients, like how to do these things. And yet what I've found is that the way the world works is exactly opposite. The more you provide, the more you partner, the more you provide people in the way of information, the more trustable you are, the more integrity you have,
totally.
The more honest you can be with people.
Well, and it's looking for synergy too, right? Like, I do something, we're both in marketing, but I do something very different than what you guys do. Different. And, we've been able to pass clients back and forth to each other. And, so totally agreed, man. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a great lesson to learn. So on that happy note, Danny, thank you so much for joining me today. Sorry Christian couldn't make it, but he was doing something.
Thanks for having me, Reese.
Yep.
Catch you next time, Christian.
Yeah. Later.